Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're looking at the speed build of the hippo habitat. The video is quite long, so there's some destination timeline links for you. I'll drop for you where you can kind of bounce around to the parts you want. Starts with the habitat build, then goes into the underground viewing area about 8 minutes in, and then start working on foliage at about 26. Build an attached staff building at about the 40-minute mark, 38. And then kind of the end of the video is just an exhibit review, gives big overview, shows everything that went into it and things like that. So I apologize about the length, but overall this build, I think it took me between 8 and 10 hours. And so it was a chore just getting it down to the kind of, I guess it ended up about 56 minutes or so. So I thought about separating it, but there was just a lot of things to cover here. So, like I said, hopefully those timeline markers will help, and you guys can kind of bounce around to the things you want. So I will definitely not talk for the whole hour, but I'll pop into each one of the things and kind of let you know what we were trying to get, or what I was trying to do, or what my thinking was, and you guys can kind of pick from there. There were a lot of renditions. You guys will see some kind of things start to change. The underground viewing area, I really struggled with trying to figure out the end product that I wanted. So that one changes quite a bit. It starts off kind of square. Then I move to more of a round platform and things like that. So hopefully by the time it's all said and done, you guys will kind of get it. I did try to piece things, include as many pieces as I could without making this video, 8 hours long. So, but this viewing structure up here that I'm building at the moment, um, I wanted just a big kind of overview to look over the whole entire exhibit. I knew the kind of building I wanted, and the kind of viewing I wanted, but to be honest, finding the tools to that were kind of plug and play for the building were difficult at first. And finally, I got it and stuff like that. So I did end up taking a lot of inspiration from the Cincinnati Zoo. The Memphis Zoo was one of them. And kind of those two things. Hippo Cove at the Cincinnati Zoo, which is really cool. That gave me the inspiration for the underground viewing area. It's not an exact duplicate, but it's the main pieces that I wanted, which was, kind of an underground cavish, looking thing, kind of trimmed out with big, huge logs, like I'm using in this above ground overhead structure here. So, and I did know I wanted this huge, like I said, like kind of overlook over the whole exhibit. This exhibit turned out to be really big. I have found, and I think in the other videos that I did about the cheetahs as well, um, foliage and raw, scenery, the scenery stuff really eats into the exhibit budget quite heavily, especially with the animals that actually like it. It was a huge deal with the cheetahs because they don't particularly appreciate a lot of foliage, but hippos like it more than the cheetahs did. Um, but as the more I play, the more I'm kind of building larger exhibits because you can lose 25 to 40% of an exhibit, maybe not that much, but certainly 25% just by placing rocks, trees, things like that. A little bit later on, when I start filling up the water portion of this exhibit, um, there ends up being kind of a severe pathing problem, and my hippos can't get to all of the water that I placed. So I end up having to kind of redo some of that and end up having to remove some rocks and things like that, which they still end up just above the water needs that they have. So anyway, here I did want this big, like I said, this overlook section, and this was me trying to mesh these two things together. And basically, what I did was just end up building two huge discs and deleting half of them and then kind of merging them together. Um, which it did turn out good. I was kind of happy with it. It was a little taxing on the system a little bit, and I have kind of a powerhouse system, but it was chewing up some resources there. This is me playing the game in franchise mode, so I like having the limitation of funds and things like that. And I have found that in franchise mode, it's a little bit difficult to get started, but that learning curve quickly goes away, and you end up okay with money, kind of early into the game. So but I do like having that there and things like that. Also on this, again, some of these my scientists have not, or the mechanics have not researched all the tech yet. So there's probably some pieces that I don't have access to yet that if I ever get a chance to actually sit down and play the game, or just instead of just recording for YouTube, then I'll actually fix that part. So anyway, so yeah, so I think this thing's going to go through and just show you how I built this upper structure. I do get kind of particular and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so later on I kind of bounce back and forth with foliage and things like that. So hopefully the video flows okay for you guys. Um, but all the important stuff is in here. So I also found that where I get stuck, I was really stuck. The underneath of this building, I wanted the inside of the habitat for the hippos to be under this viewing structure. That was my original goal. That's what I kind of set out to do. I did end up having kind of a hard time with that, just like trying to, for whatever reason, just my creativity wasn't there. And so I actually had to walk away from this part. So that's why I kind of bounce around. I do some foliage for a bit and work on the underground structure for a bit and then work on this overhead thing for a bit. I just find that, I guess coming from the design world in general, it's good every once in a while to walk away and, take a break, do something different, and get some fresh eyes on something to kind of pop creativity. So you'll see me kind of tinkering around with different pieces and seeing what I want to do and that sort of thing. So overall, I was happy with it, and I hope you guys enjoy. And I'm gonna head on over to the next kind of timestamp I gave you guys at the beginning and see what's happening there. Thanks a lot. Enjoy. Hey guys, just popping back in for the underground portion of this build. Um, I went through a couple different renditions of this before I figured out what I wanted. I knew kind of what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to be underground. Originally, I had this idea for kind of more of a stacked stone look, and it was a lot more of a benign kind of design. Kind of I guess the steel plate that kind of leans back towards the audience against the windows and that sort of thing. And did some searching around and came across some inspiration from an exhibit called Hippo Cove out at the Cincinnati Zoo. So got to looking at that, and they have this beautiful, big, kind of partially submerged, half underground viewing area, and it's built out of logs, and has these big glass windows, and it was really cool looking. So that's where I kind of derived the inspiration for this build, and as far as shape, I mean, I really fought with the underside of this for quite some time before I figured out exactly what I wanted to do, and I couldn't get the pathing the way I wanted it, and things like that. I just couldn't get all to line up. So I think that's when I switched gears and ended up going to build the above ground section. So I always find it's good to kind of, if you can't figure out something, kind of take a break, get some fresh eyes on it, and do something else. But anyway, so yeah, I'll let you guys get through this build. You'll find that the water was kind of tricky here. I had to end up using a kind of a when I do the waterfall, and it'll probably go through this more in detail later. But I wanted a multi-level waterfall for people to look at underneath this exhibit here. So I wanted it about eye level. So um, but just use lots of this stone cladding, and I think it's okay that it looks uniform, that it looks like it's supposed to frame in a window, and that it's fake rock type stuff. But the whole thing under here ends up getting done in all this kind of stone, and I put a little kind of a raised water section, almost like a koi pond. Um, The game doesn't have any koi, so I couldn't use that, but it would have been perfect if they did. So yeah, this section will just go through how I decorate the kind of water areas and do that underground section. And so I'll let you guys get through that, and I'll pop back in at the next marker, which is at about 26 and a half minutes. So, which is where I start most of the foliage and things like that. So, going through, just want to make sure that it gets covered. So here I'm just testing. No, I know that looks silly, but I was trying to see if the water or the rocks would hold back the waterfall, which obviously they don't. So what I had to do was just put a glass piece across. And to not confuse the game, you can go into the settings and make these not a habitat perimeter. Otherwise, it'll start confusing things. But so look for that in the settings. And I just shrank them down. I wanted, I wanted that top just a couple feet, 2 or 3 feet above the bottom section. So I just kind of made this glass wall and hit it and end up building rocks kind of around it because I wanted just that slight, kind of pretty drop into the pool below. So, I tinker with this thing, as you can see. I'm tinkering with this thing for a while to try to figure out, and then finally, get it to stick and lower it to the water line. I wanted the top water line, as full as we could get it, and the bottom one, like I said, just a foot or two beneath it, just to give me some slight water flow. So, anyway, we'll go through this building of the rock waterfall, and I'll catch up with you guys here in a bit. Hey guys, thanks for jumping ahead to the foliage part. Basically, yeah, just trying to round out this hippo exhibit. You can see the underground structure is kind of coming together. Um, Trimmed it out with all the rocks, and made kind of like, I guess what I envisioned to be like a little koi pond kind of thing in there. I thought might look kind of cool. This I largely got from it was a zoo. It's in China called the Chimelong Safari Park. That's in China, and they kind of had this really cool underground cave kind of area, and I just thought it was so neat the way the plants kind of grew out of all the rocks and things like that. So I wanted to mimic that to some degree. Dropped our hippo statue down in here for guest viewers, but yeah, that Chimelong Zoo in China had. All kinds of like great flowers and stuff growing out of the rocks. And I thought so hopefully maybe we'll get some. I thought about trying to find some kind of kind of starfish thing or some kind of pool thing to put in this section, this little water section that I did inside the underneath viewing area of the exhibit. Or maybe we'll get something later, maybe not. But if nothing else, it's just a little small pond that I thought I'd put some foliage in, and so you can see how that's coming along. But yeah, so this part's going to go through these hippos. Are their kind of habitat is aquatic and grassland, specifically of Africa. So there's not a ton. One thing I was a little bit bummed out about is I was really looking forward to using like some lily pads and things, but I know in some parts where hippos are that those kind of things can exist. The biomes that it listed in the game did not make them available, so I had to leave those parts out. This is kind of when we're also detailing the underground viewing exhibit of the zoo, just kind of tightening that up and placing donation bins and doing all the game portion of it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy and stay tuned for more. Thanks. Okay, so here we're fast forwarding. If you fast forwarded, you're just landing on the part where we're doing kind of the keeper hut, the staff center, I guess what I would call, of this particular exhibit I wanted to put in. And really, what I wanted to do is I just wanted a smaller version of the main habitat building we've already built, with a couple modifications. Obviously I wanted to close it in, so we're going to do that. But I just copied the entire building, and to give us kind of an abbreviated version of it, just copied and moved it over. Um, and I think it's four squared. It looks like it's no, it looks like it's 3 by 3 or 4 by 3 squares overall. So it gave us enough room, give me enough room to put a keeper hut, I think, is in here, and a staff room were the two main things I wanted in it. And then since we have all this water and we were moving towards the back of my franchise zoo, it was a perfect placement for another set of power and water facilities. Since this building was going to be kind of hidden away, I thought those things, and usually that's what I'll do. If I have staff facilities going in, I always try, if I can, if the structure doesn't get too large, I usually try to put them on the inside of the building. And this particular one, the structure was the right. This was, the size that I wanted it. There wasn't enough room. There probably was actually. There's two spots in here that are empty. Oh, but they're on the curve, so no, I was not able to fit them because just as far as square things, they would have protruded through the building. So as far as just straight square units, this building is only it's two and two. So I just dropped them right on the outside of this building. But the building turned out nice. I finally got to use kind of the, more of the actual kind of straw hut kind of looking roof, um, and put some things in there, and the same exact kind of I guess decorations as I used on the interior building. So I just kind of drop it in here, and then I did end up growing the habitat slightly, so that I could match up the exhibit gate. I cut that out and replaced it and put it actually in the building, so they enter the exhibit from the building itself. And then just kind of realigned the perimeter, the null perimeter a little bit. And then I didn't, between this and the cheetah exhibit, I was kind of getting tired of using boulders and had my fill of rocks at this point. So I end up finishing this off with just the big logs. And so some of this probably strays a little bit from what we'd actually see in terms of like African architecture and things like that. But it seemed to match the zoo, and it certainly matched this exhibit okay with all the log work that already was. I didn't want to introduce clay, like as far as like clay walls all of a sudden. Um, so we stuck with kind of the log build, and then later on go back through and do some grass to kind of cover that stuff up and blend it in. And here again, just doing staff path to the building itself to keep these things away from the patrons of the zoo because they don't like to see it. I do wish they'd put in, if you covered it up, if that negative impact radius can be reduced or diminished. It seems like it should be really like a viewing, and I guess to some degree a sound thing. But as long as things are kind of being muffled and hidden from sight, then it seems like it should be, if nothing else, kind of reduced to some degree. But, whatever. It certainly doesn't detract from the game, that you have to kind of hide those away a little bit further. But it would be kind of cool to be able to put some of these things closer to, staff areas or just different parts of the zoo where you can kind of keep them hidden or keep them isolated in a building. So anyway, here I moved to kind of the back wall just to change it up a little bit, move to a log system, and start blending in some more trees and things like that. So this looks like it's getting pretty close to the end of this video. Again, thanks guys for watching. I know this was a long one. I could have split it up maybe into two, but decided against that. This kind of raised path that I'm working on now. At the Memphis Zoo, they have these really cool kind of uplifted areas like that, and they're surrounded by kind of brick cladding. And I noticed there were planters and trees inside those, and I just thought it looked really cool and went well with the brick surrounding or the rock surrounding wall. So I wanted to get at least one of those in here. Also, you'll see in here, I did end up having kind of a water problem. There was not enough water for the hippos in this exhibit, and so I'll deal with that here shortly. I do decide to go back and add to the back of this exhibit, since I grew a little bit by expanding the border. I did end up with a little bit more surface room, and so yeah, see here you can see in the main pool that I actually wanted them swimming in, they didn't have enough room to get in there with the rocks, and probably to some degree the level of slope that was there, the grade. So this is inside the hippo exhibit underneath. So the viewing area is right above that, but I wanted the hippos to be able to enter from either side and go underneath the viewing area and give them some privacy. So as I'm learning, lots of these animals like to have privacy. They don't like being on display all the time. So I wanted to make sure that they could escape and stuff like that. So here behind this little structure, and it actually turns out quite nice. I just surround the outside with uh, with the stone and put some planters and stuff inside. And I end up duplicating this a little bit at the other corner of the zoo. So as far as why I did not look up why they do that. I'm not sure if it's because the hippos trample and just destroy the foliage that's in there, and that might be why it's raised like this, or at least at that particular zoo that was the case. But it seems like it looks weird a little bit here in the beginning, like it's not going to turn out good. But once it does look man-made, and that was okay with me. I kind of did, I wanted it look, to kind of look like that. I just really appreciated the way they did it, and I thought it looked really neat. So, and then of course we go back in and add some waterfall detail here. And I haven't done, this is actually my very first waterfall that I've built in this game yet. I guess without the thing that's part of the habitat, like you get that big waterfall structure, but this is the first kind of custom water work that I've done. So it turned out okay. I'd have to go back and review it and see if I really wanted to improve it. I'm sure always there's room for improvement. But anyway, so this is the last kind of build segment of the whole video. At the very end, at about 49 and a half minutes, what are we at now? We're about 45 and a half. So in another 4 minutes from now, it's going to kind of go through the review and how the exhibit finally turned out. So again, I thank you guys very much for watching. And if you're liking the videos, then please subscribe. I'm going to try to keep them coming more regularly and get out something, every 1 or 2, maybe 3 days. And I think next I'll probably work on do some building work and some staff facilities and things like that, just independent buildings that I can get up to the Steam Workshop. This one, I don't think there's any chance I could do it. I think it's too big, and I think it's got too much going on. I don't think it'll work. Plus, as I hone in my skills, a lot of these things have been separated from groups and things like this. So I'm quite certain that this would not go there successfully. But hopefully, you guys can, if nothing else, get some inspiration from the video and do your own cool thing. And that's it. So again, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Subscribe, like, comment. If you have any feedback, certainly I'm always looking for ways to improve myself. So good luck in your builds and have fun.